The Oslo Gospel Choir are a gospel choir from Oslo, Norway. Fairly obviously. They were founded in 1988 and are still going. They had released 33 albums by 2024. They are led and conducted by Tori W. Ars, who I've probably pronounced wrong, and they've had worldwide success and sold over 1.5 million albums. Hi, my name's Dan. So most of the reviews on this channel are my quest to review the 3,000 greatest albums of all time, according to a list at a website called Acclaim Music. It's a great list. It's been put together by amalgamating many other lists to create kind of like a longitudinal Metacritic kind of view of albums and music in general. Um, and I'm very much enjoying that. But occasionally I step off that list to do a review, and some of those are reviews that I just want to review because they're an album that I like and I want to bring to more general public. So I've got a few different kind of strands of this that I do, and this one belongs under the strand Hidden Gems. So it's an album that I don't think the general public are going to be aware of. If you know this, and you'll have please leave me a comment. I'd love to know how widespread this is. So there's a little bit of a background to this album in terms of my relationship with the album. So in the early 90s, I was working as a volunteer in a Christian bookshop in the city where I live near still. And we had a shop closing tape, which meant 5 minutes before we were about to close, we'd put this cassette on, and it had, first of all, an announcement, which was, we're going to close in 5 minutes. Please make your final purchases, bring them to the thing. We're going to be, we want to go home, that kind of thing. And then it would play one song from this album, which is the first track on the album, which is called Operator. And the manager in the shop used to joke that this was designed to drive people away and to encourage them to leave. Um, I don't think he meant that. I think he really enjoyed this track, as did I. And occasionally we would play the album. We played music through the day as background music in the shop whilst people browsed, and very, very now and then we would put on this album. So this was a time when I had very little money. But this album was one of my first CD purchases after I got my first CD player. So it became a very featured album once I got the CD player. And I've played it many times since over. So let's get into kind of reviewing it. It's gospel, pure and simple. So imagine stuff like Sister Act, Aretha Franklin in her gospel stuff. I know she kind of went on to do soul. And the choir here sound like a Southern Baptist black gospel choir. Instead, they're actually from one of the whitest countries you can imagine, which is Norway, says the Brit. Um, so they've not just got the music right, but they've got the feel right, as far as I'm concerned. Now, I mentioned Aretha Franklin. There's not quite as much bite as Aretha might have got, but who does? But there is a deftness of touch here that is exquisite. So soul came from gospel, and the backing for this particularly has quite a few of the tropes of gospel. And where are we in time? 1990, so we've come through the 80s, and this kind of musical backing was it kind of came out of soul, but also came out of gospel as well. And so the whole thing has got kind of production values that might be more called soul, but it's got a soulful feeling to it. The thing that I really like here, apart from I like the music. I love the music for most of the tracks, but you kind of really believe that they believe what they sing. So I don't know how much that is true, where they sit in terms of faith individually, where they sit in terms of faith as a choir and as the organisation. But the songs, certainly some of the songs that are used, they're very strong on a gospel Christian message, and they're not shying away from that. I wouldn't say it was in your face. I wouldn't say it's preachy or particularly proselytizing either. But I would say it is expressive of faith in a genuine way, or certainly the things that are said here. I often find that things that are fairly public about the Christian message kind of miss the heart, which is about Jesus and the cross and redemption and all these sorts of things. So I'm always stirred by choral music anyway. There's something about collective expression that gets me inside. So the the one that I always think of as a really good example of this is if you know the film Dead Poet Society and the "Oh Captain, My Captain" scene in that, and that always gets me because it's about a collective expression of something, and collective expressions seem to really touch me. So choral music does that anyway, but when you've actually also got some strong meaning behind it, that kind of doubles up on that. Amongst the songs here that I wouldn't have known, apart from the fact that I've listened to this album many times, there are some well-known songs. So there's "Bridge Over Troubled Waters," which is obviously Simon Garfunkel; "Shower the People," which is James Taylor's song; "Pie Jesu," which is more from a Catholic tradition, I believe; "What Child Is This," which is a carol set to Greensleeves. It's possibly, I think, the weakest track on the album for me. It feels a bit overdone and kind of yeah, over kind of it feels a bit forced in the expressiveness to it. And of course, you might imagine if there was one song that you would think must be on this album, it's "Amazing Grace," and it is. Yeah. The backing is predominantly piano, and I'm guessing that this is the leader is a pianist. But there is bass. There's sometimes drums. There's sometimes Hammond organ. There's occasional things like sax or flute that come in here. Quite a bit of the singing is solo, and all the solos are very good singers. There seem to be a variety of them. Some of them are more convincingly on message than others. Now, apparently, one of them is someone called Cecil Kierkegaard. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. Who is a crossover opera pop singer who's done very well. But I couldn't tell you which track she was on because I don't have the credits to hand for that. If I've got criticism, it is that at times it feels a little bit too slick and produced, and as a result, at times loses a bit of that soul to it. But almost all the time, especially when the choir is singing, that is not the case. Another criticism, I guess, is that sometimes I feel like the instruments could be louder in the mix. The piano is quite dominant. The bass playing is great, but it's way too quiet for this kind of music. So I think anyone could really enjoy this if you're not offended by a fairly clear Christian message. Like I said, I don't think it's particularly pushy. For me, though, because I've got a strong personal Christian faith, that elevates it up a notch. And anybody else out there who has that faith and you're anyway inclined to enjoy this kind of music, give it a listen. I would think you'd love it. So I actually listen to very little music, despite my faith, that is overtly Christian outside of the church setting. This works for me. A lot of what's called worship music I don't listen to as a casual listen. This I will do, and it gets me. Um, so the next, no, as always, I'm going to invite you to let me know what you think of this album, especially if you know the album, or if you're new to it and you've had a listen. Please do have a listen and let me know what you think. The next review, I'm going to be back to my list, and the next album is Stray Cats by the Stray Cats. That's it from me for now.